So you mentioned parts and wounded parts. Could you say more about what are the parts? How do they get wounded and how do they get addressed in a retreat?
Sure. So with the parts work, so we all have parts and there's no bad parts. However, when we've been through traumatic and upsetting things and have this unprocessed trauma sort of kicking around and unprocessed trauma that we've experienced, these parts can be warped or pulled out of their sort of natural state and kicked into overdrive. And that can be in the form of these protector parts, which, there's these parts are trying to protect us, keep us safe in the best way that they know how. However, it since they're sort of in that warp state, since they're kicked into overdrive, tends to cause trouble for us. These protector parts can show up in the form of managers, which are more proactive, more future oriented, sort of the line of thought with those manager parts is, I'm never going to let this happen to me again. So I'm going to do everything I can to avoid this experience. Like an example might be like, I'm never gonna allow myself to be hurt again. So I'm going to just cut off all ties, pull out, airlift myself out, and totally isolate. In addition to these manager parts, there's also these firefighter parts. The firefighter parts are more proactive. They're more in the sort of like immediate present when that sore spot gets hit, when that wound gets activated, the firefighters sort of kick it into high gear. That oh, the building's on fire, like we need to break out the fire hoses and put this fire out. And that can be things like dissociation or substance use, trying to numb out, self-harm, suicidal ideation. It really runs the gamut, but doing something to sort of try and put that fire out, essentially. And these protector parts are protecting something. They're trying to keep something safe. Tends to be these wounded parts. And now these wounded parts, they tend to, not always, but they tend to be younger, and they're holding on to this unprocessed trauma. Essentially, they're stuck in that trauma time. They're holding on to the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the worry, whatever it is, and they might not know that it's what year are we in, 2023. They might be stuck in 1972. And so we want to go in, connect with those protector parts, connect with those wounded parts, that wound, that sore spot, that trauma that these parts have been holding on to for such a long time that they don't need to hold on to for anymore. And also increase that connection with that self energy that we all have, that's inside of us, but can be really hard to access with all that trauma stuff sort of getting in the way.